In this very special episode of Monster Preservation and Research Society, we celebrate Cobra Convergence 6 with a look at some of Cobra's monsters from the G.I. Joe cartoon. So, stick around! Hello fellow monster hunters, and welcome to Monster Preservation and Research Society. My name is Rob, and in this episode we will be celebrating Cobra Convergence 6. Here at the Monster Preservation and Research Society, we love to take a look at the real-life monsters that roam the Earth. Either they are cryptozoology, folklore, myth, what have you. But we also love to shine a light on the monsters from pop culture. Now, in this episode, we will be taking a look at the Cobra monsters that appeared in the G.I. Joe cartoon in the 1980s. Now, these monsters are just as important to research and preserve as any of the other monsters that are roaming this planet, because folklore can come in many forms, even animated. Now, a little bit ago, I talked about some of the supernatural-based G.I. Joe and Cobra action figures from the mid-80s to the early 90s. Now, these supernatural action figures that we talked about appeared a little bit in the lifespan of the G.I. Joe action figures. Now, the cartoon, on the other hand, hit the ground running by having a focus on the supernatural, the paranormal, ghosts, monsters, magical artifacts, gods, and even ancient evils that lurk somewhere beyond human thought. At the time, this was groundbreaking storytelling for an 80s cartoon and definitely for the G.I. Joe universe, because when you compare this to the G.I. Joe comic, the comic did have a sampling of super science, but it never really went the route of monsters or the supernatural. I think the only time it got close to that was the Serpentor storyline, but you could argue that that was super science as well, because it dealt with splicing genes from some of history's best warriors and world-conquering despots. Now, the cartoon actually had their hand at that storyline, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So, without further ado, let's get to the first monster on the list. Before we begin, I would just like to say that I would love to include video footage from the G.I. Joe cartoon, but Hasbro has gotten very copyright happy as of late, even worse than what I've encountered with Warner Brothers. So, for the sake of not getting in any trouble whatsoever, I will be including screen caps, and that's about it. So I apologize for that, but that's just the way of the modern world. Now, the first monster is the Annihilator, which appeared in the episode In the Presence of Mine Enemy, that aired on November 19th, 1986. In the episode, we have Conquest pilot Slipstream running missions over a Cobra installation, a small island. He is trying to gather what data he can, and after a while, he is pursued by a group of Cobra Night Ravens. Now, they shoot down his conquest, but in the process of crashing, he is able to fire off one shot and bring down one of the Night Ravens himself. Both planes crash land on this Cobra Island. Not the Cobra Island, just a Cobra Island. Investigating the wreckage of the Night Raven, Slipstream sees that it is a female Stratoviper. She is injured, and he saves her from the wreckage, and they quickly have to learn how to work together because battle android troopers are swarming the island and are out for anybody with a heartbeat. Slipstream and the Night Raven pilot, who is going by the name of Raven, get into the installation to escape the bats that are after them. They quickly are attacked by a green, tentacled beast known as the Annihilator. Now, this beast has a large, toothy maw, large tentacles, and a blob-like body that seems to ooze acid as it comes through the wall after them. Throughout the episode, it is a cat and mouse type of game, On one hand, you have the bio-annihilator chasing them down. On the other, you have bats swarming the complex, shooting anything that moves. Also, the Cobra installation is full of different traps that the hero and Raven have to overcome. Toward the end of the episode, Dr. Mindbender makes his presence known on a video monitor. He tells Slipstream and Raven that this is his laboratory, and this is a safe place where he can work on different biological weaponry, like the bio-annihilator. He announces to both of them, even the female Stratoviper, that they will both be nothing more than burning cinders when it is all over, being melted by the bio-annihilator. With quick thinking, Slipstream initiates a self-destruct initiative for the island, and we see the bio-annihilator fall inside of a crumbling hole. As our two heroes are escaping the island, they hear a helicopter, and it is Lift Ticket with the tomahawk ready to pick them up. They both grab a rope and are lifted to safety, but like most monsters, it is hard to keep them down, and they are ready to strike with one final attack. The bio-annihilator lashes out with its tentacle and grabs onto Slipstream and begins to pull them down, but with the crumbling island all around it, it falls and lets go, saving our heroes. The ending of the episode sees Raven ripping off her Cobra insignia and throwing it into the ocean, and Slipstream mentioning that they have a new recruit. Now, it would have been awesome to have some continuation to this story and Raven becoming a new G.I. Joe member. The next Cobra monster that we will talk about comes from the episode The Primordial Plot. This episode aired November 12th, 1985. This episode starts off with some oil field workers bringing up some dinosaur fossils that they found on their latest drilling expedition. The fossils are quickly stolen by Wild Weasel flying over with the Rattler. From there, we are whisked away to a university where Dr. Massey, a scientist, is giving a presentation on cloning. He shows his cloning process with a simple gardener snake that he has hatching from an egg. His assistant quickly rips off his lab coat to show that he is a Crimson Guardsman, and he grabs the doctor and they are extracted by Cobra. From there we go to G.I. Joe headquarters, where the Joes are talking about the most recent plot of Cobra to clone dinosaurs. It's kind of lackluster how they just drop the plot right there within the first few moments of the episode. You know, allow a kid's brain to expand a little bit and figure this stuff out for themselves. But anyway, the G.I. Joe team kicks it into gear and they go flying to another Cobra Island. How many islands does Cobra have? Anyway, this one is located in the South Pacific, and they are shot down and they crash onto the island. How many times does G.I. Joe crash onto these islands? Anyway, once they're on the island, it is a primordial world of overgrown jungles and swamps. As they get their feet back under them and start investigating the Cobra installation on the island, we are shown Cobra Commander and Destro talking about how they can control these newly cloned dinosaurs that they have created. Destro has come up with a chip that Cobra Commander can hold to his temple and control these dinosaurs with his very thoughts. G.I. Joe is pursued by these dinosaurs and driven into a cave where a velociraptor T-Rex kind of dinosaur jumps at Flint. It is a life or death struggle for Flint when all of a sudden the dinosaur grabs his backpack. The dinosaur rips it open and takes his food rations out, which they now realize that these dinosaurs are just hungry. The Joe team quickly rounds up the dinosaurs and they march them towards the Cobra Fortress that is on the island. Seeing that their scheme has crumbled in their hands, Destro leaps out of the windows. The Crimson Twins each grab a leg as they are all propelled into the air by Destro's gauntlets. That's neat. Why didn't we ever see that before? I didn't know his rockets on his gauntlets could also propel him like he's flying. That's kind of neat. Anyway, the dinosaurs ransack the Cobra Fortress, and all they want is food. You see them attacking the mess hall and going through different boxes of rations and eating and enjoying themselves in a peaceful manner. At the end of the episode, Joe is left wondering what to do with the dinosaurs. Dr. Mesa, of course, says that they should open up a museum so people can see these dinosaurs. But Flint says no way, and they will just leave the dinosaurs here on this island to live his peaceful life. Other than the mind control and G.I. Joe and Cobra, this story sounds awfully familiar. And I just want to point out that Michael Crichton did not publish Jurassic Park until 1990. Could he have been inspired by this episode of G.I. Joe? Who knows? The next monster was G.I. Joe's version of the classic horror movie, The Blob. The episode titled The Germ was released October 23rd, 1985. Now, when the episode starts, we have a simple dude in a lab coat sitting when he is contacted by the Crimson Twins on his fancy-dancy Cobra two-way wrist radio. They tell this undercover agent to steal an experiment called Bacteria X. When this Crimson Elite returns to the Cobra base, he gives Bacteria X to Destro, who is working in a laboratory and has many different vials. As Destro dismisses this Crimson Guardsman, he says that he cannot because he is told by Cobra Commander himself to oversee Destro's progress. In a huff, Destro leaves, and the Crimson Guardsman contacts the Crimson Twins, who tell him to grab the vials and they themselves will work on this project because they have no time to waste. As he's scanning the table and he grabs Bacteria X, he also sees that Destro is working on a growth formula. He grabs both vials and quickly leaves. Like most government agents, even the Cobra organization, their different departments cannot work together. And the soldiers that are posted at this Cobra base attack the Crimson Guardsman because he is stealing Destro's experiments. While he tries to escape on one of those awesome gliders, a Cobra trooper jumps on the back of the glider, attacks the guardsman, and rips his awesome red uniform, spilling the two vials down to the earth below. The two vials crash together on the rocks, causing a awesome mutated large bacteria monster to be created. The germ quickly grows in size as it starts absorbing different matter, and quickly becomes large enough to engulf the Cobra base itself. In a last-ditch effort, two Cobra troopers don their eel diving suits, and you see them being overtaken by the bacteria. G.I. Joe is quickly alerted to this problem, and we can see that this Bacteria X germ monster is going across the countryside, eating everything in its path. A unit of Sky Strikers is dispatched, and you see fighter pilot extraordinaire Ace fire missiles into the Bacteria X monster. The missiles are launched back out of the beast, and they bring Ace to the ground. He quickly jumps into a local farmer's biplane crop duster and tries to gas the creature with some good old-fashioned DDT. Again, the monster takes in this poisonous gas and burps it back out, engulfing the biplane with the poisonous gas. Fighting for air, Ace lands, and none of the Joes are able to get close because there is a toxic cloud clinging to the biplane. In steps Airtight, who saves Ace and also hatches a plan to launch a spaceship-type ship into the germ itself to try to attack it from the inside out. While zooming into the Bacteria X monster, Airtight sees bits and pieces of the Cobra base floating in its mutated solution. He sees the nucleus of the Bacteria X monster, and he leaves his ship to go swimming over to it. Behind him, he is towing a large array of explosives with hopes of bombing the central nucleus of this creature. He is attacked by those two eels that we saw trying to escape and being engulfed by the monster. Unfortunately for them and for Airtight's explosives, they are all absorbed by the nucleus, and Airtight has to give up this mission because it looks like there is no hope. In a last-ditch effort, the Joe forces shoot out the ground in front of the Bacteria X monster and try to reroute its progress. In the meantime, they are visited by the professor that created Bacteria X, and he tells them that within the seeds of an apple is a poison that could stop it. Unfortunately, because of the size of this creature, a simple few seeds won't be enough, and they need millions of apples to take it down. G.I. Joe hatches a plan to gather as many apples as they can and bombard the beast with them. As the beast is engulfing tons and tons of apples, all hope seems to be lost, until one faithful apple is enough to cause the creature to explode and be vanquished by G.I. Joe and a bunch of apples. Gives new meaning to the old saying that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. In this case, a ton of apples will kill the large mutated Bacteria X monster. Now, the next monster on the list was not a plot-defining beast at all. It was actually a very quick appearance of a kinda neat monster. Now, this monster made its appearance in Part 4 of the miniseries Rise, Serpentor, Rise, which aired September 18th, 1986. In this miniseries, we saw Cobra, at the behest of Dr. Mindbender, begin to collect all manner of different essences from different would-be world conquerors, great warriors, and even Sergeant Slaughter. See, this differs from the comic book because instead of Sergeant Slaughter, in the comic, they used Storm Shadow as that final missing ingredient. Now, Cobra Commander, knowing what's up and knowing that they are pretty much genetically creating his replacement in Serpentor, who, might I add, is kind of a monster himself because he is cobbled together by different genes and different essences from a lot of different historical characters, like Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Sergeant Slaughter. But anyway, trying to thwart Dr. Mindbender's progress on making Serpentor, a bitter and vengeful Cobra Commander kinda slipped something within the genetic stew. When they try their first attempt at creating Serpentor, out bursts a red protoplasm monster. Like I said, it's a pretty quick appearance by this beast as it's quickly dispatched, but it was really cool, and it's a monster of Cobra design, albeit an accidental design created by a childish Cobra Commander. Since this entry to the list is so short, allow me to take this time to add a previous monster that we talked about in a past episode. These monsters are the Fatal Fluffies. Next, we go into outer space and take a look at a creature that appeared in a very popular 80s cartoon. The G.I. Joe animated series was crazy, but it was the good kind of crazy. Who am I kidding? It was the best kind of crazy. 80s cartoons like G.I. Joe are something that are rarely seen nowadays. The most basic of ideas. A group of American servicemen and women taking on a would-be world dictator and his private army. That alone could be a comic book, cartoon, and toy line all by itself, but oh no. G.I. Joe took it a step further. Day after day, after school, we were treated to some real genre-bending ideas that I credit for making me the person I am today. There are countless examples of episodes that were written with a devil-may-care attitude that still impact my interests today. In the third G.I. Joe miniseries, and the first story arc of the ongoing cartoon series, the Joes try to stop their constant, insufferable foe, Cobra, from unleashing a global weapon called the Pyramid of Darkness. Zartan, along with his dreadnoughts, and Cobra seize control of the Delta space station and use it to harness their nefarious plan to control the world's electricity by emitting an EMP-like barrier around sections of the planet. The Joe team flies to the Delta space station to try and regain control, but are met by some of the most adorable creatures they have ever seen. Taking inspiration from the 1984 movie Gremlins, the fatal fluffies also hid a monstrous and murderous side to themselves. When a whistle is blown, the once cute and docile creatures would change into large, bestial creatures. Their bodies a mix of fluffy gray fur and silver metal bands. Their new form also took on a new personality, one of evil and malice, not unlike the Gremlins. Cobra controls them with the whistle, but in honesty, it looks like the fatal fluffies are into what they do. They are masters at slave driving and are very skilled at the whip. Oh, and let me also mention that the fatal fluffies can also breathe fire, which is a great power to have while on a sealed, oxygen-enriched space station. Pair that with the ability to use firearms, and Cobra had a pretty awesome and unstoppable monster at their disposal. To be honest, there is little information to be found about the fatal fluffies, but they were a creature that Cobra made themselves genetically. Since the G.I. Joe animated series was no holds barred when it came to anything really, it would have been no surprise if these creatures were found and enslaved, or an alien species. Heck, the G.I. Joe world was populated with ghosts, monsters, magic, ancient gods, aliens, and anything else that progressed the plot. Unfortunately, this was the one and only appearance of the fatal fluffies. After they helped G.I. Joe take back the space station from Zartan, they were never heard from again. I fear that they were either sucked out into space through an airlock by the Joes, or turned back into their cute and cuddly forms and executed with a double tap to the back of the head. Either way, the Joes are good guys, so it would have been humane, right? But not all hope is lost for the fatal fluffies. They made an appearance in the IDW G.I. Joe comic series, where they replaced the Inhumanoids in a story when IDW discovered Hasbro didn't own the rights anymore. They also made an appearance in the mobile card collecting game G.I. Joe Battleground. Our final monster is another example of how Cobra Commander's childish behavior has monstrous results. In the episode Sins of the Fathers, which aired November 18th, 1986, we start the episode off with Cobra Commander and Destro drilling into a large open hole. Destro explains that this hole is on his ancestral land in Scotland, and there is an ancient evil lurking beneath that his ancestors wanted to keep hidden. With electronics starting to act up, including the bats that are on hand, Cobra Commander knows that he is very close to what he is hunting. Even this Televiper, in a very humorous display, knows that Cobra Commander is about to crap the bed. We now go to G.I. Joe headquarters, and we see Dialtone and Roadblock dressed in their civvies. And might I add that Roadblock looks pretty spiffy. Anyway, Flint goes to Dialtone and says that he's cut from the team, that his performance just isn't up to snuff recently, and the Joes don't have a use for him. Don't feel bad for Dialtone, because Hawk soon tells us that it's all an elaborate ruse. Dialtone himself doesn't even know about it, because they wanted it to be as authentic as possible as Dialtone starts working for Cobra. Now, that is something kind of distressing, that if they were to cut Joe members from their roster, they would just instantly go to Cobra. Can't they just work a normal 9 to 5 like everyone else? Anyway, eventually Dialtone tries to stop Cobra Commander in whatever nefarious plot that he is hatching with this open hole. But it's too late. He actually accidentally helps Cobra Commander. He awakens an ancient evil. Before we are treated to what this monster looks like, we hear his voice, which is very reminiscent of Destro's. And he asks what Cobra Commander wants. Cobra Commander says that he wants to make a pact with the beast, and he only wants one thing in return: the destruction of one man. That's right, Serpentor. And with this, the beast erupts from the earth. It is a kaiju-sized creature that is kind of reminiscent of the Brood from Marvel Comics. This large serpentine creature with little pincer arms is unstoppable as it makes its way towards the ocean and drops within the water. Everyone knows that this monster has plotted a course to Cobra Island to vanquish Serpentor. In a move that just shows how heroic G.I. Joe really is, they actually radio over to Serpentor and give him the skinny on what's going down. The monster finally arrives at Cobra Island and Cobra forces start to attack it with no results. The Joes, teaming up with Destro, hatch a plan that revolves around the McCullen-Destro family lore. And Destro tells them that if they say a certain chant, it'll help seal the creature into another vessel. They decide that this vessel should be an underwater trench, and they use Serpentor as bait to lure the creature to fall off of a cliff back into the ocean. There, they use the chant over a megaphone and seal the creature away. Funny thing is, Serpentor is actually blaming G.I. Joe for this. I mean, his simple, ancient mind just can't grasp the fact that Cobra Commander is trying to stab him in the back. Anyway, that was just a look at 5 of the different Cobra monsters that we saw in the G.I. Joe cartoon. There are plenty to choose from, so I kind of had trouble picking the ones that I wanted to talk about. See, that is the great thing about the G.I. Joe cartoon. It is in itself so set apart from the other versions of G.I. Joe, the figures in the comic, that it is its own wacky, crazy thing, and I just love its supernatural elements. I mean, who doesn't love the episode where Storm Shadow had Excalibur? I mean, that in itself is so crazy that it is awesome. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I want to take this moment to thank Hooded Cobra Commander 788. Without him, we wouldn't have a Cobra Convergence, which is in its 6th year. I mean, his tireless efforts and groundbreaking ideas brought this G.I. Joe community together. And this community just isn't G.I. Joe based. It has reached out to many different YouTube creators, blog writers, and different content creators from around the interwebs. So again, I just want to say thank you, Hooded Cobra Commander 788, for all of your tremendously hard work and herding all of us together. I mean, I'm sure at times it's like herding kittens, but it's well worth it when you see the awesome content that is being produced, like I said, across all the interwebs. So please, check out the other stuff that's out there. And with that, we are going to close the book on this installment of Monster Preservation and Research Society. It's been a while since I've done one, but I thought with this event, it is a great time to relaunch the series. I don't know how regularly I will do them, but it is a series that I love doing, and I can't wait to do more. So anyway, until next time, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky!